Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of the Mario and Chaos Show. I'm your co-host, Mario Mancini. I'm a former WWE wrestler and co-instructor at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, along with Paul Roma, Big Steve Tracy, and the man behind the glass for episode number 62, 61, and all the way to 1. That would be the 2020-something inductee into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Second-generation grappler, Paul Perez. The square below me is a man that needs no introduction. He has done everything from soup to nuts in the wrestling business. My emphasis on the nuts. He is no other than, ever, bigger, better, badder. He is the guardian of chaos. Big Daddy. Big Daddy, what's going on?
Well, episode 62, Mancini, coming to you live from Chaos Headquarters. I switched it up a little bit. It's great to have Double P back behind the glass. We didn't do the Mario and Chaos show for probably about a month. And now we're doing episodes 61 and 62 here in season 2 in a week. We're back on the air. We're live. They're getting ready to open up here in the Constitution State with this COVID-19, this coronavirus, whatever it is that you want to call it. Mancini, the state of affairs from your point of view, I want to give a big shout out to Action Law Group, Diadamo and Tracy Bailbon Studio, SweetHeal.com, the Worldwide Dino Costa Show, John Filippelli, all our good friends down at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Mancini, give me your thoughts on the current state of affairs and what's happening here in the Constitution State, New England, Northeast, and the COVID-19. It's the current topic. We have to address it.
I can only hope, Big Daddy, that Connecticut follows Georgia. I understand that Georgia has opened up.
FLA too, Mancini.
And there's no spike. So COVID might be going out to sea, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're going to semi-open up. It's always nice to have a semi, Big Daddy. Semi-open up.
I had a semi this morning, Mancini.
And
not bad.
We're going to see what happens. I mean, hopefully it doesn't spike. I don't want to see a lot of other people get sick. I don't want to see one more person die. I don't want to go on TikTok. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be 54 next month, and I do go on TikTok. And see another person in bed with oxygen up their nose, breathing real heavy, going, pray for me. You know, that breaks my heart. And, you know, I don't want to see anybody, you know, in that physical condition. And it certainly sucks. So hopefully everything goes okay. And if there is a spike and we regress, then you know what, we shut back down and, you know, gain another 15 pounds. I don't know.
Big Daddy froze.
Big Daddy?
And ventilators.
Oh.
Where's the correlation here on the Mario and Chaos Show? This is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I asked you about the COVID-19, and you were talking about fucking TikTok. What are you doing?
It's better than talking about a Tic Tac.
Mancini, episode 62. In all seriousness, breaking news here on Perez, can you help me out? Where the fuck was he going with TikTok? Mancini, give the breaking news when it concerns Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling and what's happening in the upcoming days and weeks lying ahead. And when it comes to the pandemic, I agree with you. We're going to come out of this, and there's a lot of news coming out of this, and we'll see what happens. But they've delayed things a little bit. Give the breaking news to the fans at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling.
Well, I know I'm starting classes on Thursday. the 21st, and I know Roma is going in to teach on Saturday. So we're gonna try to make it business as usual. And I don't have any word on any shows yet.
Oh, well, of course not. Of course not.
You know, I think that's jumping the gun a little bit. You know, but we're gonna try to start teaching again, and you know, the students are itching to get back into the ring, the youngsters, and you know, I would certainly like to go back in there and resume our classes at least.
Well, it's to my understanding by watching Governor Ned Lamont, who has the brain of a dehydrated baby, that you know, tomorrow we're going to be opening up here on phase 1 in the state of Connecticut for bars and restaurants and eating of outside and stuff like that. It's good to see you're watching your carb intake, Mancini. But we're opening up in the state of Connecticut tomorrow at some point. So Paradise Alley will be in that phase of opening up. That's what's happening here. That's the update that I wanted to talk
Big Daddy,
about.
are you trying to say that cantaloupe is bad for you?
Is that what you're eating, cantaloupe?
Well, actually, it's not, Big Daddy. I want you to know that. I want you to know that very rarely will you ever find a genuine cantaloupe in the United States. This is actually a muskmelon. It's not a cantaloupe, although people do call them cantaloupes. It is not a genuine cantaloupe. It's a muskmelon.
I have muskmelon before, Mancini, and you're right. It has been known to be a cantaloupe. Now, Double P, are we coming in okay? Can you see Mario and Chaos? Can you hear us in the fucking earpiece? And that's right, we're actually wearing earpieces.
Yes, we are. And I can hear you both.
Double P, there's a lot of things I want to go to. We've jumped all over from TikTok to COVID-19 to muskmelon. What I would like to talk about here on episode 62, there's a lot of news coming out. Paradise Alley will be opening up. You heard Mario Mancini say it. We're going with the state guidelines, the CDC guidelines at Paradise Alley. All the ropes in the ring and the school has been sanitized, and we will be following whatever the state and CDC guidelines are for the students and faculty and staff of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Obviously not open to the public. Roma Mancini will be starting classes. Roma trained, Mancini brain. Paradise Alley now is back in session, Mancini, and this is good news for the wrestling community, good news for Paradise Alley, and good news moving forward here in the Constitution State, hopefully leading us into Diesel Mania 5 and the Taco Fest. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen, Mancini. And other breaking news, not only, and I want you to address this because I know you were a part of it in some small way, I'm not quite sure. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. Former Paradise Alley professional wrestling heavyweight champion, the first student that Paul Roma ever trained and Mario Mancini brained out of Paradise Alley, has signed an exclusive contract extension with MLW, Major League Wrestling, and that is one from the dynasty, the most marketable man in wrestling, and hasn't said his name in a long time because the consumers are buzzing. One Richard Holiday. Your thoughts on Holiday, his contract, and moving forward, Mancini, because you called it. You said early 2020 into middle 2020, the summer, Holiday would be a major player in the industry, and you and Roma were right.
Well, this is what I think. You know, I got the call from Holiday, obviously wanting my advice, as Roma did, and I told him what I thought.
Now, could you let us into the privy, how privy that was? Could you let us in on that?
What? What'd he say?
What did he say?
Holiday is you know, as Perez knows, because Perez is a partner. He's one of our kids, and he's loved very much at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and we're all very proud of him. But I always want him to shoot as high as possible, and of course, the highest you can shoot for is the WWE. I gave him my opinion. Roma gave him his opinion, and Holiday thought, based on the COVID and empty arena wrestling and the uncertainty of the future of the business, that he felt secure and comfortable re-signing with MLW.
Well, and not only that, MLW and Court Bauer, they're doing incredible things. It really is a company that's on the rise. I wish JIm Cornette wouldn't have left the company for whatever reason. They have a lot of stars. We've talked about it before, whether it be Brian Pillman Jr., whether it be Jacob Fatu, the heavyweight champion from the Samoan Dynasty, the Von Erichs, Davey Boy Smith Jr. So there's a lot of lineage there in MLW, and they're doing big things. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, he beat Savio Vega, former WWE superstar who you guys know well. He is the current Caribbean, however you want to see it, heavyweight champion, and that is Richard Holiday. So I think it was a smart move too, Mancini, because MLW, COVID-19 or not, is a company that's on the rise and is in the upper echelon right there along with the NWA, Ring of Honor, Impact, AEW, and the WWE. We know that WWE is the promised land, but right now they look like the land of the lost, if you ask me. Just my opinion.
They looked like that to me when the arena was full. Product sucks.
Yeah, it's, both organizations right now, and you don't talk about this too often, Mancini, and I'll give you credit. I respect it. Perez works a lot, produces the show. He's got a lot of things going on. He catches the product sometimes, and I'd like to tap into his mind. But what's going on currently during the COVID-19 and what Paradise Alley was involved with itself and a couple of different empty arena matches and dark matches and things to that nature, and what the product is right now, and what AEW and WWE are doing with the empty arena, it's worlds apart in the two products, Mancini. Perez could tell you that. And how they're presenting it and the emotional investment and the storytelling is just a totally different product. And that's why I was happy to see Paradise Alley produce and have some of those matches on YouTube. You could see it on our YouTube channel. It was unbelievable, the two matches, Mancini. And you're right. The ratings are going down. The product is in the tank. We got to get back soon, my friend. It was a good move by Holiday, too, wrapping up that point about Paradise Alley Superstar signing a major contract extension with MLW. So, Holiday, if you're watching, and I know that you are because Mancini and Perez are here, and you honor them like uncles, congratulations, Holiday. Well-deserved. You're one hell of an athlete, one hell of a star, the dynasty. And I see him going to AEW and MJF sometime soon. Couple years, but he's solid.
No, I don't even think it's a couple of years. I believe that Holiday, number one, according to his contract, you know what I mean? He there's restrictions as far as competing with going to other companies. However, contracts are always meant to be bought. And I think Holiday is an extraordinary talent. I think he stands alone. I think he's got the goods. I told him he had the goods 4 years ago. Because I know the goods when I see him. And he's extremely talented. He's got a great gimmick. I can see him. I always said the gimmick that Holiday came up with could easily be a Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin. The consumers are buzzing. You know what I mean?
The marketing campaign, the earpod god. I mean, you're right.
Yeah, the most marketable man in wrestling. I mean, he's got the whole thing. So, unfortunately, this COVID has held things back as far as progressing forward, climbing the ladder. But I believe that, nonetheless, I think he'll have a very successful run, and I think he'll have a great career.
The most impressive thing about Holiday as we open up episode 62 here, I got to tell you right now, guys, the pain, unbelievable. Thank God I took a little something down here in the office.
Were you sitting on your beans or something there, Big Daddy? You adjusted the family jewels or something?
I got a couple ice packs on. Something's going on here. It's
from
okay.
The leak.
The most impressive thing about Holiday is that he has no lineage. He has no tie. He has no legacy. His legacy is Paradise Alley, Roma, Mancini, Paul Perez. That's his legacy. So to see him competing and to be able to do what he's doing, you're right, he's an incredible talent. He's got the goods, Mancini. He really does.
He does. He's a very talented individual.
Now, I would like to get, I'm not going to make this a Richard Holiday podcast, but we're taking up the time because he signed the extension because he's such an integral part. And when he comes home to Paradise Alley, it's very important. Perez, your thoughts on Richard Holiday? And give me a second, guys, here as I adjust. Your thoughts, Perez. I got to put you on the spot for a minute.
Like Mario said, he was our first student. He's like our first child, and it's nice to see him progressing and coming along. And actually, holy cow, everybody's leaving me. What the hell's going on?
I'm not abandoning you, Perez. I'm right here, man. You can expect this from Mancini every week. You know this is what he does.
Holiday knows that we have nothing but love for him at PAPW. And whenever he wants to come home, the doors are always open.
Now, there's a bunch of things that I want to talk about. Perez, see, this is why I sent you my format and my notes, because I knew Mancini would be hanging us out to dry. He's probably on the treadmill. What I would like to talk about, and this is in regards to you, Mancini, and I want to pay homage to you because, we're all on lockdown here. It's COVID-19, but I heard some interesting stuff on Busted Open Radio. The Sports Authority on Sirius XM, satellite radio, pro wrestling, the big time. It gets no bigger than the Madison Square Garden of professional wrestling, sports, entertainment radio. And
who are the hosts on that show?
Well, one is the legendary David LaGreca, who's been around radio and broadcasting and pro wrestling and sports his whole life. His brother is Don LaGreca. The LaGrecas are unbelievable. And then 3 WWE Hall of Famers and ECW stars. And that would be Bully Ray, probably one of the best, if not the best, tag teams in the history of pro wrestling from the Dudley Boys. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, who's like in 3 different Hall of Fames, an unbelievable human being. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man. And then, of course, ECW icon and landlord of the House of Hardcore. I believe the House of Hardcore or the Home of Hardcore. And that would be one Tommy fucking Dreamer. And I can say that right now because I'm in pain. And it reminds me of the time was I with Zombie or were our opponents against Zombie? It was Zombie and Dreamer. And Dreamer caned me like a rented mule in Mexico, Mancini. And that's what this pain reminds me. I didn't forget.
Was it the cane or was it the burrito you had with the hot sauce after the match in Mexico?
No, it was the kendo stick, my friend.
Oh.
But here's the rub, Mancini. Today they had a separate thing. You can go to Busted Open. It's on Sirius XM. You can go to the app. It's unbelievable. They did at one point about a month ago, we talked about this on one of our last podcasts, maybe a couple of months ago, top WWF, WWE enhancement, you hate that word, and I'll let you rant, jobbers of all time. You were in the top 3 in the WWE. Well, they did one this week. It was Bully Ray, Dreamer, and the infamous, I'm a LaGreca guy myself. Ask that DOO, Sergeant Murray, the host of the show there, LaGreca. Top 10 of all time: AWA, WCW, NWA, WWE, WWF, ECW, New Japan, AAA, every fucking wrestling organization in the fucking world. From Japan to Australia to the Pacific Rim to here in the United States and to Canada. The top fucking 10. Are you listening to me, Mancini? You were voted. And they wouldn't use the term jobber because we like that and we respected that. You were voted top 10 of all fucking time as enhancement talent, to use their words. I believe on one list you came in at number 7. Speak to it, and I'm going to shut up right now. And I want Perez, because then I think I have the list, and we'll talk about some of the guys. Mancini, I'm so proud and admired to be associated with you all these years. And then, 35 years later, you're still relevant, my friend. This is what I say to you all the time. Don't ever cut yourself short. Guys, take over for a minute or two. And Perez, you better say something. If you hang me out to dry, I'm going to get somebody to kick your ass because I can't do it right now.
So,
Mancini busted open.
So, Big Daddy, what you're trying to tell me is, in the entire history of pro wrestling, which I believe started in carnivals in the late 1800s.
I believe you are correct about that.
So I have been voted one of the top human Viagras in the history of pro wrestling. So I am not an enhancement talent. So
that was their word. That was not my fucking word.
So an enhancement talent is the fucking guy wiping down the counter at the diner while Jerry, Elaine, and George and the other guy, Kramer, is
Well, how
sitting
could
at
you
a
forget
booth
Kramer?
sitting at the booth in the diner, and there's a guy in the background with that little triangle hat and that white shirt, and he's wiping down the counter to enhance the scene. I'm a
Make the
jobber.
scene look better. Yes.
I am a jobber. Jobber. I am a jobber. A jobber. I'm not enhancement talent. I'm not there to get anybody stiff. Okay?
I love it. Go ahead. I want you to respond to that. The different terms, which you hit on all the time, and then I'll tell you what they say.
It's not that I don't appreciate it. I do. The recognition is nice, I guess. I mean, so I'm one of the top losers in pro wrestling history, and that and 50 cents won't get me a fucking thing at Dunkin' Donuts. Nothing. Zero.
Paul Perez, your thoughts? Top 10 enhancement jobbers, the term one versus the other, to be relevant 35 years, to be one of the best losers. And then I'll tell you how they broke it down, because they explained it the way Mario and you explain it all the time here in the podcast.
Yeah,
how important
Mario,
it was.
Definitely one of the carpenters. He's definitely a better worker than a lot of the guys he put over. But he just never got the opportunity, I'll tell you that much.
Double P, you're right.
You have to remember something, and I'll get serious for you, Big Daddy. You have to remember something. I went to wrestling school my senior year of high school. I'll say it again. I've said it a million times. I graduated high school June 20th, 1984. The next day, I turned 18, June 21st. July 31st, I was in the Poughkeepsie Mid-Hudson Civic Center looking across at Greg Valentine. My very first pro match. So I think I counted one time. I think it's like 40 days after my 18th birthday. I got out at the ripe old age, actually, quite honestly, at the ripe old age of 25. Because really, I say 26, but really, my last match was April 26, 1992 in Huntsville, Alabama, against Rick Rude. The night before that, I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I worked with Honky that night. And then the next night, we were in Huntsville, Alabama, and I worked with Rick Rude. And it was April 26th. It was just 2 months shy of my 26th birthday. And I had my last talk with Strongbow. And he said, listen, just get out. I can't get my own kid booked. How the hell am I going to get you booked? And that really sank into me. You know, if he can't take care of his own son, although I always like his son, how's he going to take care of me? He's not going to take care of me.
It's a valid point, and that's where I always speak to you, just in my own selfishness.
And then 2 years later, they phased out jobbers anyway. So I
wish you would have hung around. That's what I was saying when I said my selfishness. That's at the point where you and I talk about, and I'll interrupt you because I fucking do it all the time. That's where I wish me and Cini. I see you, Perez. See, I used to not be able to see this. Okay, now That's why I love you, brother. Good man. See, Mario, that's when I wish you were still had stayed in it, because the independents would have ate you up. ECW came along, and I'm just saying. So let me. I just want to say that because I say it every time you tell this story. But go ahead, brother.
Well, so I got out when people are just starting. I got out. I was already there for almost 8 years. So I got out when people really are just starting. And I didn't know at the time, you know, some good things I did, like being Bundy's debut match and Taker's debut match, you know, the Hart Foundation's debut match, Big Bully Busick, Demolition twice, you know, the original Demolition. Then when Barry came in, then I was just their debut then too. Hercules Hernandez's debut match. I was at the war to settle the score, holding back Piper.
Those were good times, man. MTV days.
Took me to the Garden 6-7 months before I turned pro. That was the night Hogan took the belt from the Sheik, and I was there helping bringing the Sheik back to the dressing room. And those are very special times, and I'm glad I was there for him. But I never mentioned this on the air, and I probably never mentioned this to anyone, not my kids, not anybody I've ever been with. But if I can, I'm going to be 54 next month, and I think I don't have them anymore. I probably had them till I was like 33 or 34. The nightmares I would have, and the regret I had, and going over the mistakes I made. And when Brett came up to me in 1990 telling me to go to Stampede Wrestling in Calgary to get off the TV, and I wouldn't do it, and because I didn't know if I was coming back, and all that stuff used to haunt me.
And at that point, you had thought you had paid your dues, and I got to be honest, how long, when Brett asked you to go to Calgary, how long were you into your career already with Vince in the WWF?
6 years.
Right. So, I mean, I was never in your position, but I have to agree with you at that point of your career, Mancini. Continue.
Well, listen, every morning in my life, for the past 2 months, I listen to JIm Cornette every morning. And
you said that last week, Mancini.
Yeah, so sometimes Cornette Perez will refer to us as some schlub, I'm saying, come on, Jim, he was working with some schlub there. I'm like, man, come on. But the truth of the matter is what really haunt me the most is what Perez said, and Perez himself was in the same boat of coming back to the dressing room and sitting down, and
must have been a big boat.
One of the boys coming over and shaking your hand saying thanks a lot because you did a job for him, and they walk away, and in your heart, and for a fact that you're a better worker than that person. Damn well you're a better worker than they are. Damn well you've been trained better. Damn well you got more of an arsenal. And damn well that if given the chance that you can do something too if you were just given the chance now.
Well, that's what the boys on Busted Open Radio said when it came to talking about enhancement talent, aka jobbers. And this is going to segue into, when you got out of the business and your conversation with Bret Hart about going to Calgary and being in it 6 years already at that point and staying for 8 years, and when you got out, and this will go on to my point from there of staying on. Look at what just happened to correlate to your story, who just signed a contract till he's 17 years old. Okay. I mean, what Bully Ray says. What does he say,
give you
Anthony?
5 spots, you'll fuck up 4.
Till he's 70 years old. The
Undertaker.
Undertaker just signed a 15-year contract, a guy that you debuted, and that's a perfect segue of what I want to talk about.
Well, even though Vince mentioned that
Getting an opportunity is the point.
The Triple H 25-year reunion, Vince mentioned that Taker debuted in the Survivor Series. His television debut on pay-per-view probably was the Survivor Series, but I worked with him a week before that, and the match aired a week after the Survivor Series. But
correct.
Big Daddies, that's just business. That's just business. Vince doesn't want the Taker to be. You got to remember something. Let's talk about pro wrestling. Okay.
Thank God for once on the Mario Chaos show.
Yeah, the gentleman who did that little biography on me, which still really touches me, I really appreciate it. He was correct. So you got Mario Mancini, right? 5'11" with the boots on. You got almost 6 feet. I got the 5'10" and a half naturally back then. I'm probably 5'9" now, but back then I was 5'10" and a half. I had an 1.5 inch wedge on my boots. So you could say 6 feet with the boots on, 245.
Social distance.
242 in shape, 265 out of shape, 242 in shape when I worked with the Taker and all my matches from like 89 to 92.
How much did you weigh when you worked Playboy Buddy Rose?
242. I was powerlifting. I was in the weight class.
You looked tremendous.
Right. So I was in a land amongst giants. You know what I mean? There were big son of a bitches. I mean, Don Morocco was a house. Literally, I love Don Morocco. When he left, I cried. I loved him. So let's talk about The Undertaker. The Undertaker is very rare. I said to Hogan one night, he was getting ready to go out. He had the belt in his hand. His opponent was walking out to the ring. And I said to him, you know what, Terry? You probably can go out there to your music, get in the ring, pose, and leave. And get back and just walk back to the dressing room. They'll probably still be just as happy. You know what I mean? Because
at that point, you're right.
Because Hulk Hogan had a presence. 6'7", 6'8", 302 pounds. He had a presence. People bought tickets just to see Andre walk to the ring and walk back. Because
that's what they putting asses in the seats, brother.
Right, they want to see the eighth wonder of the world. They want to see Hulk Hogan. Taker's in that category.
He certainly is.
At 6
the longevity alone, Mancini.
The longevity. He's 6'10". The music, the thing, the whole 9 yards. He's one of those guys that could have walked out and walked back in without even locking up too. And there's very few guys in the business like that. Listen, when I was booked in St. Louis, and there was an advertisement in the paper. No, number one, my name wasn't mentioned there. The top guys were mentioned in that advertisement. But if my name was mentioned there was never some jabroni in St. Louis that went, hey, Joe, Mario Mancini's going to be at the arena next Saturday. We got to sleep out for tickets. You know what I mean? I never sold one ticket. Nobody
you didn't get the opportunity.
No, I didn't. Nobody ever bought a ticket that said, hey, Mario's going to be in Tampa, St. Pete next week. We got to go. You know what I mean? I never sold a ticket. So,
don't say that. Don't cut yourself short when you came to New Haven or Hartford or Madison Square Garden or Boston Garden or the Toronto Gardens, because there were a lot of family and friends back in the day that put their money down to come see you, bro. I hate when you do this shit, man.
No, when I wrestled in the New Haven Coliseum, I looked out there and I saw about 6 or 7 high school classmates out there and stuff. So stuff like that. But when you're the local yokel, that's going to happen. I'm talking about
you're about nationwide.
Right. When you're a real draw, you can draw anywhere. You know what I mean? So I was an undercard guy. I was, I was the popcorn match. I was the, you know what I mean? So,
and then, like you said, they phased it out.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away the fact that I worked really hard in wrestling school. I had great aspirations. I had big dreams. You got to remember something. When I was 14 years old in 1980 and Bruno retired, he announced his retirement. That's when I decided I wanted to be a pro wrestler because I wanted to take Bruno's place. And as I mentioned in my Hall of Fame speech for the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, it didn't exactly end up like that. I didn't take Bruno's place. I wanted to take Bruno's place. And I was itching to be a pro wrestler, and I lived for it. And, Perez lived for it. His mother and father were pro wrestlers, so he definitely lived for it. So,
and you know that I certainly fucking lived for it and still live for it, Mario.
Well, yeah,
so that was my whole point about, and I know we're getting off topic here and we're rambling on, but my whole point is, I can listen to you all night, is, we're in a decent amount of this podcast. My point was the Taker signing that contract and just
the point of Taker signing that contract is so AEW doesn't hire him to come out and walk back in to the dressing room.
You think?
So independent wrestling companies don't start eating them up, because a guy like Taker could probably make as much or more money, just showing up at independent shows. You got to remember something. Steve Austin, I don't know if he still does. He probably does. But you want Steve Austin to come to your show, it's $100,000. You know what I mean? So Taker Taker would. Well, you want Hogan to show up at 60. You want Flair to show up at 60. So, these guys make serious money.
That makes sense of why he signed them. But Taker's not going to AEW. But if anybody would know, it would be you. It makes a lot of sense. You don't want your legend, your Hall of Famer, going to another company. And speaking of legends and Hall of Famers, Mancini, I'd like to, before we head on down the road here of episode 62, because Perez is looking at it, says the secret high sign. Coming up this week, last week with Dark Side of the Ring, we talk about it every week, and I want to continue to talk about it because this episode, fans, we definitely, after looking at this episode, me personally, guys, I have a face for podcasting as opposed to thanks, Perez. Dark Side of the Ring this week. Last week was the Road Warriors. Mario, this week, it's the story of Owen Hart, and I would like to go to Perez first, and then to you. If you can give a quick story, or if you know anything personally, your thoughts on this week's episode of the Dark Side of the Ring with Owen Hart. Things that are out there, and an RIP of all things to Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. So address these topics here on season 2, episode.
Big Daddy, what was he, 100, Eddie Haskell?
I wonder if we ate June's Cleaver. I didn't mean to say that. We're talking about Dark Side of the Ring. Mancini, give me something on Owen Hart and the Hart family.
I think you just asked Paul Perez to say something about Owen.
Go ahead, Mario. I'll defer to you.
I did ask Perez.
I only met Owen once, and he was really nice. Very limited contact with Owen, just once. I saw him at.
I was around Owen a lot. Owen was really quiet. He's a fantastic human being. In my opinion, and in some other people's opinion, a better worker than his brother.
I have heard that.
Yeah, excellent in the ring, and the Harts, like when Brett first came in, he kind of had a hard time with the promos, with the talking, the Hart family went in the ring and they worked, and they weren't too animated. You know what I mean? They in the beginning they weren't too animated. Like, you want to get animated, It's pro wrestling. Fucking get animated, But they're excellent workers, and eventually they, they got the hang of it, and Owen got the blue blazer and everything, and he was just an outstanding guy. It's one of the saddest tragedies in the history of pro wrestling. Big Daddy's up for sale.
Yeah.
Can I give you 27 cents for it?
Right now you can get that for 2.5 cents, Mancini. But yeah,
which is my point, Big Daddy, about you saying after my career. I said it a million times, and I'll say it again. I had a head trip.
You can't see what we're doing here on video. So when you go, I'm sorry to cut you off. When you go to the audio part of this, if we sound all screwed up or like we're We are on different conversations. That's because we're all looking at each other too, and it's all on YouTube and on video, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of chicanery to this, Mancini.
So, Big Daddy, I said it once and I said it a million times. I wrestled for the New York Yankees. And now you're asking me, and I wasn't a superstar, so you're asking me to go and play for the Mississippi Mudslingers. Now, if I'm Mick Foley, and I'm getting $2,000 a shot, I'm going to play for the Mississippi Mudslingers because I'm going to be the highest paid player on the team. But you're talking about Mario Mancini. So now you want Mario Mancini. I'm not going to Bangor, Maine for $1.25, bro.
Well, there's guys that do that now for not even a quarter. Never mind.
Vince McMahon is paying me anywhere from $350 to $550 a shot.
Listen, and tell me if I'm correct, and you and Paul will know this. Back when I was traveling with a lot of guys in the late 80s and early 90s with the WWF, a couple of jabronis, but we got back to the locker room, able to talk to Shane. He was a worker. He got $250 to not even work, to sit at what you would call today Titus Catering at a couple of venues when he came through as a local jobber here in the area. $250 to not even be on the event, just to be on standby. Not bad. You guys made more, but today they would go to Japan for that for a week.
I worked Hartford. I worked the Garden, Hartford, and the Spectrum in 1 week. That was my highest week. I made $3,300.
Yeah, it was tough back then. Guys like yourself and Perez today, and I know we're off topic and we're going all over the place. We're talking about different things, and I want to apologize to all the fans out there, people on YouTube and on our regular podcast. I'm at about a level 8 in pain right now that I'm trying to do this year, but I'm having a lot of fun, and so I do appreciate it, and I throw it out there. I'm not on my A game today, but the money, Mancini, that guys like you and Paul could have made because as solid workers today, you guys would have did very well for yourselves, in my opinion, just to be solid workers, because there's not a lot about that today. And Paul said we're almost ready to wrap it up here. I'm going to lean back. How far in are we on 62, Perez?
Oh, we're like over 40 minutes, so.
Well, what do you got? Listen, there's a lot of
Big Daddy, I hope a lot tune into the Owen Hart Dark Side of the Ring because
we were talking about that.
I mean, he was a real gentleman. He was a nice guy, and one of the saddest tragedies in the history of wrestling. It really does suck that happened to him. He's a really great guy. But you have a lot of tragedies in wrestling. You know what I mean? So. You got people in wheelchairs because, I start up again.
Well, Darren Drozdoff is a perfect example from the WWE, Mancini, who was hurt by D'Lo Brown, a move gone bad. He was teamed with the Road Warriors, still paralyzed to this day. And Owen Hart, from what I understand, was afraid of heights, Mancini. You might know this better than I do. And it was 70 feet in the air on live TV. I believe it was in Kansas City. I know the history of it, and it was a move gone wrong, and it caused a lot of tragedy in the fans. If you don't watch this from a guy who was a legitimate ribber and had one of the best reputations, from what I understand, from the stars in the locker room, and an unbelievable guy and a worker and a legend in Owen Hart, to get serious here again, it's going to be a phenomenal show, Mario. And I couldn't agree with you more. But that's from what I hear.
Listen, I don't look forward to wrestling.
Dark Side of the Ring sometimes.
Well, Dark Side of the Ring, I'm glued to it every week.
It really is an unbelievable series.
I'm glued to it. I'm glued to it every week because I like seeing the guys. I like seeing Ordendorff, and I like seeing Valentine, and I like seeing Barry Darso, and I like seeing JIm Cornette, and I like seeing Jimmy Hart, and you know what I mean? I like seeing all my friends, you know what I mean? So
not only that, they have that half an hour after show, after dark, I think.
Yeah, well, they fucked that up a little bit. So now the after dark is 9:30 the following week on the previous week's show, whereas they did After Dark immediately after the show. They don't do that anymore. So
Yeah,
it's
they
kind
kind
of
of screwed it up.
And then you got the fucking
She
you
Missy
got
Hyatt?
yeah, with her Botox. But
I got a chance to work with Missy a couple times.
yeah, with her Botox. But they got that.
Great lady.
They got that Halloween King, hosting it. Going, welcome to Dark.
You're right about that. Is that Jacob
Dark
Eisner
Side.
Perez?
Dark
Is that who that is?
After Dark. I don't know where they got this
producer.
guy. Why didn't they?
Perez, have you seen Dark Side of the Ring?
Why didn't they just get Cornette to do it?
I agree. I was listening to his podcast tonight, Mancini. You're right. It's riveting. It's riveting stuff. I got to tell you. And Dark Side of the Ring is an unbelievable series.
I just happen to think the guy's he's a wrestling genius. He is the business. Jim Cornette is the business. You know what I mean?
We know how you feel about Cornette. I could take him or leave him, although I love him and I learned a lot from him. I would like to hear from someone who's a little reserved before we wrap it up here. Perez, give me your thoughts on the history and how controversial it is, and I'll be quiet again, hopefully. Your thoughts on Jim Cornette, his podcast, and just his effect on the business and who he is in the business.
I love him. I love listening to him. I know he gets a lot of heat, but heat for telling the truth, I'll take it.
Big Daddy, I want you to picture this. Okay. Roma's the master. Roma's the master. Roma is the storyteller. And he's damn good at it. Okay. He makes Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling a very exciting show. Two heads are always better than one. What would you give to have Cornette walk into a Paradise Alley show and say, Jim, have a seat, and after the show, tell us what you think?
Well, I was fortunate enough to work a couple of shows with him and pick his brain. For someone like me, I'd give. I would pay to see it, and for me, that says a lot. Yeah, I agree with you. There is no price to it.
It's just on a booking standpoint. I mean, I want you to think about this. Think about this.
Okay, I'm going to think.
I want you to think about Dr. Death. I want you to think.
Why Dr. D?
No. The other Dr. Death.
Oh, Steve Williams.
Kevorkian?
Yeah. I want you to think about the storyline, the angle he could have had with Steve Austin. If Jim Cornette went up to Vince McMahon and said, this boxing match is the dumbest thing in the history of pro wrestling, and it should not be done, and you should listen to me. And Vince McMahon said, okay. Here's the problem with Jim Cornette in the WWE. Here's the problem. And this is why I love Jim Cornette.
I hope Vince is listening.
Here's the problem. Jim Cornette is pro wrestling. Jim Cornette is a great gimmick. Headlock, one tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, two arm drags, and a drop kick, and you screw. Right? Listen, Jim Cornette is professional wrestling. His mind is professional wrestling. His mind is and angles and storylines and exceptional talent. He's not a soap opera guy. And he's got psychology. That's what it makes Cornette different. But that psychology is hardcore pro wrestling. All right. I don't mean hardcore barbed wire, that kind of hardcore. I mean dead straight pro wrestling. He's not Jerry Springer. And he's not into that. He's not into stupid shit that has nothing to do with pro wrestling. You know what I mean? I'd rather see Leilani Kai work with Fabulous Moolah than, you know, two women going into the ring in thongs and mud wrestling. You know what I mean?
Oh.
I'd rather see two women that know how to work go in the ring and work. You know,
all kidding aside, I agree.
Or you know,
I
so
agree.
it's like I guess we're just a product of the '80s, and I don't know. People might look at us and go, "And you can't get out of it." Well,
At least we're not old and bitter, though. At least we're not old and bitter.
But we were all fortunate. We just about nicked the tail end. We weren't there at the end. We certainly weren't there in the middle. But we kind of nicked the tail end coming in of the genuine old school kayfabe. You know, Tony Altomar trained me. Tony Altomar was with Lou Albano back in the 50s and 60s. You know, I was listening to guys talk psychology like Gorilla Monsoon and Freddie Blassie and Jay Strongbow and Arnold Skolin, you know, and Terry Garvin. And I was listening to these guys, and these guys were the tail end of a great era of wrestling. And it was all, you know, I tell this story all the time. When I was standing in the Hartford Civic Center, I had a long wait because I was in a battle royal. I was in a steel cage battle royal elimination match. Two guys go into the cage. The one who walks out's the winner, and then a fresh guy goes to wrestle the winner. Well, I just happened to be one of those fresh guys for Ken Patera. So, but I had a long wait. It was a long night. It was the main event. So
the Olympic strongman.
Yeah, it was a long wait. So I'm standing there next to a little guy with dark hair and glasses, short, nice guy.
Who's that? He sounds familiar.
And we start talking wrestling, and we start talking psychology. And this guy started teaching me so much. But the biggest thing that he taught me, he looked at me and said, Mario, if at all possible, if you can do this, I want you to go in the ring and really think you're going to fight for your life. I want you to go in that ring and absolutely fight for your life. It's a fight to the death. And believe that. And I promise you, you'll have a great match every time. That guy was Pat Patterson's wife, Louie.
Yeah, that's a great story. You've told me before, and you're right.
I said to SD, who the hell was that guy I was talking to for 45 minutes? He goes, that's Pat's wife, Louie. I went up to Pat. I said, Pat, boy, he's wonderful. He said, you ought to see his garden. So, you know, these guys, it was just great wrestling psychology, and that's what we still bring. That's what Paul Roma, because the person who trained Paul Roma the most was Harry Fuji. So Paul Roma.
I ever tell you I saw Fuji pissing in the shower in World Gym. Man, see, I don't give a fuck if I cut you off at this fucking point right now. I really don't give a fuck. You talk about Harry Fuji. You talk about Harry Fuji. I gotta tell this story every time.
Well, at least you didn't.
I'll never forget the day coming out of the locker room at World Gym in Hamden, where all the guys train. I turn and look to the shower to the left. Fuji's all soaped up and lathered up. He looks at me as he's soaping up his hands. He gives you that look, you know, with those, you know, and I'll say it, you know, with his, you know, natural ancestral eyes, if you know what I mean. And then he looks down, and I look down because a lot of times I get put in that unfortunate situation. It seems to happen. And there he is, pissing in the fucking shower. Harry Fuji. He's looking at me, looks back up, and he's like, Bansa. Pissing in the shower, Harry Fuji. Wow. So I just kept walking like nothing was going on. Sorry, Nancy, Dad.
It's a great story, Big Daddy. Myself, Perez, and Roma still bring that to Paradise Alley. We don't put up with any shenanigans. We want great storylines and good pro wrestling. You know what I mean? So, you don't have that these days, and that's why the product is shit. And in fact, when I met Cornette at the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, where we were walking to the.
Is there a fucking bird?
We were walking to the induction ceremonies. We were walking toward the induction ceremonies, and the first thing I said to him was, "Today's product's a crock of shit. It's just shit." So
never answered the question.
What?
Is there a fucking parakeet on this podcast?
Around your neck.
You're the only one.
Right around
You're the only one here with feathers, so you tell me.
Listen, I'm not shitting you. Come on, Perez. Somebody got a bird in a cage. Am I hearing fucking things on this podcast?
You're hearing feedback. 62? You're hearing feedback from Mario's phone because he has no headphones on.
No, I'm hearing something here. Harry Fuji is in the shower, Nancy. Harry Fuji is in the fucking shower.
Perez, one too many painkillers, brother.
I think so.
Hey, did you watch the Michael Jordan documentary at all? Any part of it? Do you have any interest?
None.
Perez?
Nope.
None.
I heard it was good. Listen, I am back this Thursday, I believe in the 9 or 10 o'clock hour, depending on how go things. You know how I am, kayfabe all the time. I think I'm
Is that the Dino Costa show?
The worldwide Dino Costa show. Mario. The worldwide Dino Costa show. Tumultuous. Here's my safe word.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget
wait.
on the worldwide Dino Costa show this Thursday night at 10 o'clock. We'll see you next week for episode number 63. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great being with you. Stay safe. Wash your hands and make sure you do everything. Make sure.